One of the things I think is interesting about your background is I think this is your first stint over here on the buy side, if you will, and a guy that spent a lot of time in different sides of the sales side. And as you said, your focus is on now trying to make sure that the agency is ready to take advantage of these opportunities. And I think there's really kind of three component parts that I know we've talked about, you think about, which is both planning, buying, and measurement. And we spend a lot of time on the buying and measurement piece. Maybe we don't discuss as much the planning part. But I guess I'm curious, as you think about the evolution and really where you're focused on making sure innovation's happening inside the agency, is there one more important part than the other?
I mean, I think when Kristin was talking before about what they did at Cablevision with trying to use the same data to plan a campaign and execute the buy and measure it after the fact and use that as a way to and measure not just delivery but effect on some level. I mean, that is sort of the holy grail, and it's what everyone here is talking about and trying to move forward in one way or another. What I saw on the sell side, I was on the research sell side, not the media sell side. For a long time, what the sort of rate limiting step, the thing that didn't exist was there was no good advanced TV data to plan on, and the cable operators weren't all collecting it, and the ones who were collecting it weren't making it easily available. And even when it was available, the tools for using it were still were pretty archaic. What's happened, I think, from the time I started at TiVo until now, that side has really caught up. And there now are a whole bunch of interesting tools there, ones that are mature, ones that are rapidly emerging. There's been more change probably in the last 18 months than in the 8 years before that. So now the trick is, how do we bring the use of those tools at scale on the buy side? And the at scale is the tricky part, right? Because it's fairly straightforward to work with our friends at Turner or at NBCU to on a particular client campaign to execute a buy on their networks. But to be able to take the same target and execute it across multiple different inventory sources and then measure the delivery of that and then measure the effectiveness of that, and like that part's still tricky.
Yeah.
And so, what we're trying to do is sort of push that at OMG, is to push that consolidation and to make it easier for our account teams to think and act that way.
Yeah. Well, you've gotten so many head nods on that part of the conversation that I feel like I got to open it up and use that as a launching pad, because I think you've summarized it perfectly. And I think that one of the challenges is we think about, again, the advancement of this, what I call the business of television. And I think even the word television is becoming in question. But Denise or Michael, if you guys on the network side, again, you guys were doing a lot of head nodding when Jonathan was speaking on, maybe, I don't know, was that about the challenges? Was that about where he's focused? What's top of mind for you guys there?
Do you want to take it first?
Sure. So, I think we hear that loud and clear from all of the folks on the buy side. People want to do more audience buying. They want to partake in more of these advanced advertising products, but it isn't easy. If they want to buy from 4 or 5 different networks, they need to create 4 or 5 different segments. They need to create 4 to 5 different files, right? So I think it's incumbent on us as an industry to figure out, how do we facilitate more buying of audience products, right? Because that's really the best way to provide a great viewer experience. It's the best way to achieve the greatest ROI on these campaigns. But when the front end is not easy, it's hard to increase the uptake.
Yeah.
And again, I agree completely with what Denise said, and we're hearing it's the same refrain we hear time and time again. I love you guys, you're great, but you know what? I buy more than just Turner, right? So it's obvious. So the only way we're going to make this work, and listen, we've been at this as NBCU and others for several years. What we have to figure out is how to make it more user-friendly, how to buy. Agencies are structured and can do an enormous amount of business buying on Nielsen demo guarantees or running schedules. They have created, it's a machine, and every day they know exactly how to push tens of millions of dollars through the system. You talk about audience targeting, and it's like you threw a wrench in the gears, right? So we have to figure out a way to make that whole process easier, almost as easy as it's been buying on Nielsen demo guarantees.
Let me push both of you guys on the sell side, the network side, for a second on both that, because altruistically, I think we'd all go, absolutely. But there's a certain reality that as you guys are big players in the marketplace, and I bet if I asked either of you to share your data with the other one of you, you're both going to say that's not happening today. And I listen, I think, I don't say that antagonistically, I just think that's the reality of the marketplace, that there is this desire for everyone to play nice in the sandbox, but we're also still in the building mode of you guys having your own unique assets. And so as much as we want this synergistic one world view, I don't know that that's coming anytime soon.
But I don't know if that's really necessarily true,
Okay.
Matt. We take
Jonathan,
a very
happy?
agnostic view to data.
Yeah.
It's really incumbent and really the directive of the agency and the marketer to dictate and tell us which data sets they want us to use. We have a system that actually runs through taking the data and the audience target and the data sources, and we can then estimate our audiences. And that is unique and proprietary to Turner, and NBC does the same thing for their brands. But on the front end, the data, to me, it's widely available and everybody could use the same data.
Okay.
And I think to lob hopefully a softball to Kristin, I mean, what we need is, like, those guys aren't going to send data to each other, but if they would all put it in some sort of a common format in one or a few different common repositories that made it possible for folks on our side of the table to access it and say, okay, it's one desired target segment, it translates to this on this inventory side and this over here, and then the campaign runs, we get the exposure data back, and we can look at it all holistically. That would be great.
So Kristin, you going to solve that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. No, I think everybody benefits, right? And we'll talk later, I think, about the consumer benefit of it too. But on the sell side, the opportunity to have people really want your inventory because it's going to reach the people they're trying to reach is helpful. And why wouldn't you want to do that? Also having the opportunity to finally not just have sell on age and gender. Because we spend so much time, especially with the new company, with so many people that are in digital, and they don't even believe that that's still how you buy television. I mean, they intellectually know it, but they can't actually internalize the fact that that's still how you buy television because it's so foreign, especially to somebody, in their mid-20s who works in the industry. And so just coming from that place so far behind to get to a place where you can actually buy against real segments, and then for us having the opportunity to create segmentation across millions of households with thousands of attributes, it's exciting and it's interesting and ultimately benefits the customer and then by extension the brands and the products that are being advertised. So
I would just say, Matt, that I don't think it requires us to share our secret sauce or share our data. To Kristin's point, if you look at what's been done on the digital side, you have publishers, you have sellers that are able to maintain their own unique data and then couple it with industry available data, because we all have the same industry available data on the buy side and sell side. It doesn't really matter. So we can all maintain our competitive advantage. We just need a singular layer where there is some standardization around the segment definition and way that you use it.
Who do you think builds that, or where does that come from? Is that a third-party data provider? Is that, Jonathan, I guess I got to turn that to you. I mean, you're the one that sits across all these tools. Who's going to have that tool?
I mean, certainly, sort of one of the directions we tried to go when I was at TiVo was to be sort of a DMP for television, and I think it is going to have to be standalone companies that do it, because the alternative is people grading their own homework, and I don't think there are going to be very many of them because the level of comfort on the data supply side, it doesn't support sending it all over the place just from a privacy point of view.
just to build on that a little bit, I think the other thing is that if everything's kept separate, people are comfortable with that, and then it's the same with the set-top box data as well, right? None of the MVPDs want to combine their set-top box data with anybody else's. So if it's anonymized and you're usually using it so that a programmer can't get set-top box data and use it against the MVPD or vice versa, like everybody's trying to solve the same problem of how do I contribute without having it negatively impact me? Like I want the benefit, but I don't want the negative.